After months of waiting, it's finally happens. LeBron James is a Philadelphia 76er. It had been talked about for months, where he's going to go, but that was not a place. If you looked at somebody on their 2026 bingo card, I think you probably wouldn't have picked that, but we'll see. We'll talk a little bit about that. Just LeBron James, what his next plans, his final decision is what he called it in the social media post. I'll talk about that and, his chances of winning a ring in Philadelphia. So this is Balling Out. Shawn Grant with you guys today. Been a minute since, we've talked, but I mean, it's the off season, right? So we're enjoying the summer, but there hasn't been too much also going on in the NBA world. It was really just waiting on, to see what LeBron did. And on Friday, I believe it was, on Friday afternoon, he decided to drop the bomb and say he was going to Philadelphia. So, what were your initial reactions once you saw that post?
Yeah, well, for one, once I saw it, I think it was you who sent it or somebody had sent it out. I double checked. I did a triple check to make sure Shams didn't get hacked. I saw the number. I was just like, really? And then I just, I don't know, it kind of hit me that once I saw, all like the actual breaking news, ESPN, Bleacher Report breaking it, USA Today, like Times, like it was like, dude, you should think it was like the biggest decision. And like, it was so many reports that came out from it, like, so that's really what kind of just like caught me off guard was really like 76ers out of all of them. Like I think that for me was like I know I heard it was being rumored, but like I thought if anything that was like number four on the list.
Hmm.
Like in my
Yeah.
eyes, like I really thought Warriors was going to be a lot more up there. I thought it was going to be. I thought the Miami Heat was heating up a lot. I thought that rumor was kind of starting to gain some traction, but at the end of the day, I think I forget the last report, like the last one before, obviously he broke the news, I think was like, I think it said 76ers and Cavs or something like leading the race for him or something like that. And I was just like, oh, so he's going to the Cavs. Like that's kind of where my mind was for that. But then, yeah, just to see that news, obviously I was shocked. Like I genuinely, it kind of took me back a little bit. Yeah, I didn't think he was going to go there of all of them, but I know we'll get into it here in a little bit. But I think out of all the teams he could have gone to, I think this gives him the best chance to win one. I think this is by far going to be the best chance to get a ring.
Yeah, absolutely. I think let's talk about it. Just comparing the teams, right? So it was obviously Golden State, Cleveland, Miami, and then the Sixers. I think out of all of them, the Sixers obviously the star power was there, right? Maxey, Embiid, they
Yeah,
made the trade for Jaylen Brown. It was all there. Golden State, I mean, it was enticing, right? Because you had Steph Curry, and we thought after all those finals battles, teaming up that would have been pretty cool. One last hurrah with them, and then Cleveland, Miami was, going back to, destinations where he's been before. I think, with the Miami thing, at least the way I saw it, it's just like, I think Miami, it would have been a little too top heavy just because of the trade that they made for Giannis, right? And basically, like, their bench and depth was depleted. So, him going there, like, yeah, it would have been cool, to have the reunion, but I don't know if that honestly would have given him the best chance, right, to go out and win. And then Cleveland, like you already know my thoughts about Cleveland that I've had, in the past without LeBron. I'll say without LeBron, but I think that kind of had a play to do with it, just like the money thing, the money sense. Just having like Mobley, Allen, LeBron, like you look at that, and that's three bigs essentially that you have in only a couple of guards and Mitchell, and who knows what James Harden would have done. But that's the kind of way I saw it. So. But I mean, the Sixers, I guess, a play was the key thing was the Jaylen Brown, getting him, which to me was kind of surprising, I guess, especially after the comments that Jaylen Brown made. I think it was last summer, maybe 2 summers ago, about Bronny, not being a real NBA player. So, but I mean, what do you think on just like looking at this team, with LeBron now? Like, what do you think? Like, I think I already said this. I think when we did the Jaylen Brown thing, that they were probably my favorites to win the East. Now they're the definite favorites to win the East. I can't say they're going to win it all, but I think they're in a solid position, to compete for a championship.
yeah, I think that's exactly where I'm at as well. I mean, you look at that roster, just the projected starting five, with Tyrese Maxey, VJ, Jalen Brown, Bron, and then, hopefully Embiid can stay healthy out there because like that lineup right there, I mean, that's got to be best in the NBA at the moment. I would put up
Yeah,
there. I think at the end of the day, Thunder and Spurs. I think kind of what you were mentioning. I think Sixers have the star power, obviously, to get to the finals. No doubt about that. I think they are going to be the clear favorite in the East, but it's going to be tough coming out. I mean, for whoever comes out of the West, they're still. I really still think the Thunder and Spurs just. And I've been saying, I think both of them are basically in like a dynasty mode. They're just competing at the same time. I think they're both just that good. So I'm kind of curious to see how they match up, and obviously we need to see how the 76ers mesh well too. Because it's two rosters that have been together now for at least a couple of years. Have kind of got the momentum going for at least Thunder and Spurs. We've seen teams where, okay, yeah, it looks great on paper, like, some of these
yeah,
great teams, and, it doesn't really pan out. Not saying this was going to happen with this team here, but I just think we need to see the actual, proof in the pudding first before I think I can really say, oh yeah, they're going to win a championship. But what I will say is I think looking at what other teams have done in the East, the 76ers have gone above and beyond every single team, and they've put themselves in a pretty damn good spot, I think, to reach the finals. Like you mentioned with Miami, I just don't think. I mean, yeah, they got Giannis, that's great. I just think that's kind of like that's it. They kind of got that one star, then they just got the modern day Avengers to go around, which is nothing crazy. It ain't nothing good these days. I mean, I'll probably still go to the theater and watch, because they got
right,
Giannis,
right.
but like I'm probably good
Yeah,
on the whole season thing. So and then that, I mean, Celtics. I just think obviously with lose, I think they took the biggest L this offseason. I just don't really know. I think they had a championship team that they could still produce, out of that Eastern Conference, but they just kind of decided to go a different direction.
yeah,
So I don't really know. That was interesting to me. The Knicks, I think losing Mitchell Robinson was actually going to be a bigger piece than they realized there. Celtics, obviously, I think that was an interesting one. Did they get him as well? But like, and we know Pistons as well. I I just think we're going to need another piece now. I think we were very close. I just think the Sixers just did more. And so I think, yeah, I would put the 76ers as a favorite to come out of the East, but I'm not ready to say anything about championship aspirations. I just think that I think obviously, yeah, they're aiming for that, but I don't think it's anything kind of worth putting out there yet. I think we gotta see some games first, and
right.
obviously, I'm curious to see, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know you've mentioned this in just other chats we've had, but like, are Brian and Embiid gonna play like what half the season or something? Get them ready for playoff mode? 'Cause I think this team truly is capable even without LeBron or Embiid all the time. I think Brian is still gonna be. I think he could easily still put up 50 games, but it's just a matter of like, will you have to sort of thing. And I think if you can kind of rest him, if you will, which it could depends too. I mean, if this is going to be his last season, potentially, I know, he signed a 2-year deal, but it's a player option at the end. So, we'll see kind of where his mind's at. I mean, he was ready to retire potentially heading into this
Yeah,
season. So if it is going to be his kind of last hurrah, is he going to want to go out, and play every road game, to make sure, that, that fan base can see him? I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think we might see him kind of maybe not like I mean, obviously he's had a second win for 10 years now in his career, but like, does he, kind of push a little bit more, I would say, to maybe play more and kind of like that. So that'd be my thought with that. And then, Embiid, he's had obviously some problems staying healthy, but like if you can kind of rest him a little bit as well and, 76ers can kind of coast, I mean, as long as you got the top two seed in the East there, I think you'll be fine. I don't think, there's any worry about it past that. So that's kind of my thought. But yeah, what do you think?
yeah. I mean, I've said it before, like especially when they got Jalen Brown earlier in this month, like Embiid, honestly, he does not need to force anything. Like he's still the man, of that team, right? It's still his team, but he does not need to, force himself to be out there to play, 50 games or like he was last season, going out there playing a couple games and then having to sit out for a couple weeks. He doesn't need to do that this year. I think honestly his goal should honestly this season be okay, play if you're healthy, play, but don't force anything and just prepare yourself for the postseason. I think LeBron, yeah, we've seen this, thing with I mean, last year was really the first year, I think in a while that he had missed that much of the season. Especially, at the beginning. But I mean, he doesn't even need to like force himself to play games because we just saw what Jaylen Brown did with Boston last season, right? With a depleted roster, carried that team to the second seed. He was in MVP conversations, right? And then you add Maxi, and then a coming star in VJ Edgecombe. They have Anthony Simons coming off the bench, and they just got LeBron Fillion. In the draft. So like they have the pieces that if they really wanted to, they could say like, hey, Embiid, LeBron, you're not going to play this game. Like, I'm just being honest. You're not going to play this game. You don't need to come out and play this game. We got it, especially if it's against, some of the weaker teams like the Kings or the Nets. Like, I honestly would not expect those guys, Embiid and LeBron, to go out there and play. Maybe, they play like 20 minutes, but I'm not expecting like 30 minutes, from them. And so I think that'll be a thing to kind of watch out for. But end all be all, prepare yourself for the postseason because that's what it matters most, right? You're gonna need your legs for the postseason. You're gonna need, obviously chemistry to get there, and that'll be worked in throughout the season. But I think the main goal should be, just being ready for April, May, June, and going out there, making sure you're the healthiest, most available, because we've talked about it before. Availability is the best ability. Especially in the NBA these days. So yeah, I think they should just prepare themselves and have that mindset. I do want to ask this though. People have said the defense. Defense might be a little weak. On this roster, but I mean, you look at it right. Defense, kind of gears you through the regular season, right? We've seen that, with the Pistons, with the Thunder, with Spurs. It can carry you to the postseason, but you kind of need like that star power. Now, the last couple of, let's say, four champions haven't been like an older, veteran team. They've been more of the younger team. So you think like that defense and the aging thing is kind of like a factor for this Sixers team, or you think they'll be fine?
Yeah, I think it's definitely got to be in conversation. However, like Jaylen Brown is a stud defender. Like I think he's
Yeah.
absolutely insane defensively. I don't think Tyrese Maxey is like horrible defensively. VJ, I mean, if we're not really talking about his defense, he can't be doing that bad. It's kind of like, I mean, that's my thing with it. 'Cause I think at the end of the day, like, yes, I think you can raise some concerns about them defensively and kind of like the age there, but like, I also look at it on the reverse, and I think offensively, I think this team is going to be really good. I think at the end of the day, like with Jaylen Brown, I think he's going to be a knockdown shooter. I think LeBron's just going to continue to be a great shooter for the squad. I mean, Tyrese Maxey, we know what he can do just one-on-one ball. We know what he can do, whether it be, one-on-one coming off the ball, making plays for his team. Joel Embiid, like at the end of the day, like I just think this roster goes together so well. Like they have individual guys that just fit together, and you can run like a variety of different options, I think, with this offense. So yes, defensively, I think they might have some problems, but like offensively, I think they're good enough to still bypass all of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that 100%. And I would agree. I think, just obviously, like you said earlier, it's going to depend on the chemistry and the ball on the court. But, we'll end up seeing, what ends up happening here once we tip off. So, one more thing. So, yeah, last thing, just to talk, talking on the subject, you mentioned it, just about, this possibly being his last year. Do you think this is his last hurrah? Like he said, it was his last decision, but do you think this is his last hurrah? I think if they win it, he's done. Like no question. I think he rides off in the sunset. But I don't know. Like I was thinking about it, like on the press, like the introductory press conference. Does he come out and say? I'm sure somebody's gonna ask the question, like, is this like a farewell tour or something like this? But do you think this is it, or you think he's gonna actually play out these last 2 years on his contract?
Yeah, I mean, someone's definitely they're for sure asking him about it. No question about that. Yeah, like yeah, I think it just depends on how the season ends. I think he's got the flexibility. I think he gave himself that 2-year option for the flexibility. If it's like, dude, if they just collapse, like say it's like that Kobe, Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, like you got all these guys, but just terrible. Like, it just doesn't work out at all. Like I could see him saying like, "Yo, I played 24 seasons. Like I'm not going out like that." I could see something like that, but I think if you make a deep run in the playoffs, like if you truly give it your all there, whatever, like the only thing I'd be curious about is if like they made the championship and they lost to like Thunder Spurs team that's just dominant. Does he just say, you know
Mm,
what, like let's run it back one last time and like I don't know, that'd be interesting, but I would lean towards the idea of this 76ers team doing well enough to be like, you know what, that's going to be my last year. So I'm kind of leaning to, yeah, I think this probably will be. If you want my, I think I go more like 70-30 with this being his last year. But obviously, I think it just depends too.
mm.
You know, if they miss playoffs, like I think that's going to have some impact. If they win a championship, I think he's for sure done. It's just, yeah, I think it definitely kind of depends on how the season plays out. But I would lean towards him being done after this year.
Yeah. I honestly, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to get in the golf game. So, I would not be surprised if this is his last hurrah and he calls it quits. So, yeah, obviously we'll see what ends up happening and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it'll be, interesting to see here what all takes place here in the next couple of months as we wrap up, get closer towards the season starting and everything like that. But yeah, man, it'll be exciting to see LeBron James and exciting and weird to see LeBron James in a Philadelphia 76ers jersey. I know you're already shopping for that black jersey, LeBron James.
Oh
That
yeah,
jersey's gonna
yes
go
sir,
triple platinum.
yes sir. You
So
know.
man, facts. But yeah, so yeah, just you wanted to talk about LeBron, obviously break the news, and give our thoughts on it and everything. So once we get close to the season and everything, we'll talk more. But yeah, enjoy the summer, enjoy the off season, and yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time.